is I think that's something we don't talk about enough in health and wellness is financial wellness. It is such, as you now know, my very grounded Taurian self, having calm around finances, having a budget, really understanding financial well-being, to me is a critical pillar.
Welcome to the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacey Phillips. As a leading manifestation advisor with a process that's, radically different from the old New Age model, mine is rooted in psychology, neuroscience, and my energetic gifts. I created this podcast to help you expand your subconscious limiting beliefs about the potential of deserving the manifestations you're calling in. Therefore, you're tuning into this podcast series to show your subconscious that anything you desire is possible. And by pressing play, you've already started the process of manifesting it. If you enjoy this episode, please leave us our review, comment, and share it with your fellow manifester that's struggling or could really benefit from the information that you're about to learn. Deep exhale. I am finally up at the retreat house. It was like the light at the end of the road with how insane we've been. I just have to give a major shout out to the team. Everybody has been working so hard, complete startup fashion, hiring all of these new people, training them, onboarding them, carrying way too many hats on their plate. And I've also felt that as well. And so this has been my light at the end of the tunnel for the last few weeks. I've just been like, have to get through and get to the retreat house, going to Scotland after that, and coming back to the retreat house to pull my shit together because I thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown. I've been pretty open about it on Instagram, and it's amazing up here. And I am trying to stay off as many electronics as possible and just connect with myself and channel. I've been studying, or I had my first study under the medium Sufi, who I've talked about before. Her site's linked below, who I had a really profound medium baby spirit session with, and we talked about my gifts. And so I trained under her. I'm now going to train under her main mentor, and I've just been doing a lot of practice with that. It was really cool that in my first training with her, I saw everything she saw. So it was really, really cool and reaffirming of how I need to practice that muscle, hone in on that muscle, learn tools around it. But it's a lot less scary now. So that's just a little follow-up from the Shaman Durek episode for those who have been following on my journey with me. And it's just, it's fall up here. It's stunning. For the whole month of October, we have an heirloom, beautiful pumpkin patch on a ranch where there's a lake you cross, and there's the really wonky pumpkins, and they have the new babies that have hatched on the farm or have been birthed from the little animals. It's a real experience. So if you're coming up here in October, you're going to love it. There's also, more towards the end of this month, a U-pick on the road. That's the road going to the house. And the U-pick apple farm on Sundays is on the road going to the house. So we go, and it's this older woman named Jane who we pick apples from, and we make things. And I think I'm going to try apple kombucha this time around. I'm not drinking it because of the protocol I'm on that I've been talking about, the Karen Hurd protocol introduced to me by Unique Hammond. You can go a few episodes back. I mean, I think I talk about this to everybody. People probably think I'm nuts at this point, but I've seen such profound benefits in just 1 month. It's all I talk about. The craziest new one is that I used to wake up because of my cortisol pattern and blood sugar patterns. Anytime I went to sleep, it didn't matter if I was jet lagged or late, because I usually go to bed at 9:30. I would go to sleep and I would wake up 5 hours after waking up, which is that cortisol pattern. So when cortisol or whatever was happening in the adrenals, that's totally gone. I sleep now a full 7.5 hours, so deep. It's been really amazing having that sleep, or my sleep's been even deeper. Although this is really deep, even in LA, it's been deep. And that's the newest development for anybody who's really curious about this protocol. I'll link it below. Yeah, that's all I'm talking about with people. On a cool note with the house, we did officially release the dates. So the calendar is available now, January through March. If you're somebody who's needing to come in from out of town, you can head to the link below to go check out what dates you want to come. And because I will be on tour, I won't be there a lot. So there's plenty of dates available for anybody. It's totally booked out, I think, for the month of October already. September was booked out. So I'm so excited for those of you who have gotten the chance to enjoy it. A lot of you have been sharing on Instagram, so you guys can go check out the tagged photos. And yeah, during that crazy, crazy work time, there were a few indulgences that got me through. Obviously, being able to go and see on opening night the Downton Abbey movie, which didn't fully meet my expectations, but I'm such a super fan that, of course, that's to be expected. But it was still a wonderful checkout and made me feel holiday-y, which I love. And then a show, because I was really pining for something Scottish, folly, chic, and witchy. I follow Teresa Palmer, I think that's her name, on Instagram, and I happened to see that she was filming something, a second season, A Discovery of Witches, and I was like, oh, what's that? Checked it out, loved it. I instantly text my friend Shiva Rose, and it's a treat, and I was like, oh my God, this is our new show, everybody. And so my mom, we all like binged it from our own, computers and talked about it and stuff. So if somebody's looking for that kind of a show right now, Discovery of Witches is a good one. I think I watched it in 2 days, and I was really sad that there wasn't a second season. All of you have been asking simultaneously. I can't be in it or photographed in it without getting a ton of questions, even though for anybody who follows me on Instagram, we always tag what I'm wearing. So it's never a question, because I get so frustrated when I see cool stuff that people are wearing on Instagram and they don't tag it. They keep it secret. And I'm like, what? Oh, wow, where's that shirt from? What? So it's an indigo jumpsuit I've worn in the last couple of photos. It's a corduroy indigo jumpsuit that looks kind of like a baby onesie. All of you have been asking and sending DMs. So I linked it below. It is just Karen Callahan, or Karen. You guys know by now I pronounce everything so poorly, but at least there's a link below to check it out. I don't think it's sold out. You guys will be able to probably find it. It's not affiliated or anything. It's just below if you want it. Also, an album that I discovered on most of you will ask, because when I do Instagram stories, when I'm up at the house, I'm always listening to ambient music or binaural beats or vintage music or Gaelic music. A new one I've found is called Tones of God, a binaural beats mix. And I've linked that below for people who are really wanting to touch in again to that like witchy, folly, binaural beats vibe. I posted it not long ago when I was having to take Barley to the hospital because whatever, she got into something, but everybody was like, what's that music in the background? They cared about Barley, but they were mostly curious about that. And otherwise, one other cool thing to tell you about on the actual website, many of you have noticed that we're not really putting out blog posts anymore. Truthfully, not enough people were engaging. That's how this whole company started, were blogs. And I think the podcast, massively took over. We were still getting a decent amount of views and stuff, but in ratio to the podcast, it was a no-brainer. So what I went ahead and did was I created a topics page, and it's a curation of all of the blog posts I personally wrote over the last 3 years about manifestation, about different subjects. Also, I thought, and it's only pertinent. It's like a few for each category. So it's really the heavy hitters, along with podcast episodes that were relevant, YouTube videos that were relevant, podcasts I've been on. And again, it's a really select curation. So if somebody's wanting to get lost down that hole, I have it linked below so that you can go check out the topics page and just get a little lost in a lot of information in one place. Especially if you're new to the brand and you're like, what is all of this? What's this whole manifestation thing? You can check that out. And otherwise, I'm really excited to get into today's episode. I kind of teased it in last week. It is with, I didn't know her before this, and now clearly she's most likely going to be one of my new best friends. But it is the daughter of the founder, and she's also the CEO of Osea, the brand that I know many of you already love. We've been very, very select to have guests on the podcast of what I would deem very, very high-end, cool wellness brands. The only other one who's my complete hero is Nadine Artemis of Living Libations. If you haven't heard that episode, please go back and listen, because we don't even really get into beauty too much. We actually get into all of the things I've changed in my life, like not wearing deodorant, underwear, bras, all the things I do, and you'll find that really interesting. So Osea is completely up there, far more accessible. I would deem far more accessible. What you'll learn in the episode is my favorite aspect about them now that I've discovered it. They have travel size for every single thing. I'm going to be literally traveling now until March, April. So, and all of you heard in last week's episode that I've had to transition into completely unscented because of the protocol I'm following to heal my hormones and adrenals, which has been also profoundly incredible. Now I walk by somebody with scents and I get a headache. So I really see how many hormones are produced from my adrenals simply on a molecular level from being around scents. And so Osea is one of the very few high quality, high-end brands who provide incredible products that are unscented. And of course, my selfish favorite that are produced with the base of these 3 types of seaweed you're going to learn about in this company. You are going to love this for many reasons. Melissa was raised, and I said that correctly, right? I hope I mentioned that in the beginning. Melissa Palmer is the daughter of and CEO of Osea. So that's who we're interviewing today, Melissa, who I think is going to be my new best friend. And we have so many friends in common, which we realize. So definitely she's going to be my new best friend. But she talks about growing up on a commune, how her mom even stumbled. Her mom's like the OG hippie. I mean, they slept outside. And it's just going to be such a jam-packed wellness episode that's going to blow your mind. And I think the uniqueness of these products and formula and how much her mother channels them, their ingredients, how they're sourced, it's just I think it's gonna be your new favorite brand as it's become mine. It's remained family owned. You go into hearing about how her grandmother, who was the very first chiropractor in America, very first woman in chiropractic school in America, she immigrated here from Germany, if I'm remembering that correctly, went on to injure herself. I don't want to give the whole story away, but got a vision of how to heal herself, which led to this whole seaweed thing. It's an amazing episode. And so it still remains a completely family-run business. So the mom channels these formulas and researches them deeply. It's very scientific. And then the rest of the family really operates the company, which is so cool. How they transplanted into Malibu, we really get into old Malibu and what that old hippie lifestyle looked like. And then we really get into a personal journey where Melissa and I both talk about our fertility struggles and just all the shit. That's at the end. So stay for that if you're someone who's in that space and needing to be seen and a little supported in that. Otherwise, I think you're going to find this outrageously expansive, cool, and loving this episode. Let's get into it. Well, welcome, Melissa, to the podcast. We're so happy to have you here. I've been going on and on about how much I'm obsessed with the product because you're one of the few companies I've been able to find with unbelievable quality that's unscented, because I'm doing a whole unscented regimen. And everybody knows I'm obsessed with Scotland and seaweed. So it's like I've actually had this product on my radar for so long. And once I learned all about the benefits and the history, I just think a lot of people on this podcast will be able to benefit from that. So welcome.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
I always ask people, what's your cultural background and upbringing? But I feel like we got to go back and start with your grandma and how this all started.
Okay.
Or your grandmother, great-grandmother.
Great-grandma.
Tell us about that.
It's really the place to start. So my great-grandmother, got to even go further back with her.
Great, do it.
when she was 14 years old, her mother said to her, "We've decided to send you to America."
From where?
From Germany. Wow. By herself. And she got on a ship at the age of 14 and came to America to make a life for herself with virtually nothing. She was told that her brother had come earlier and she might find him. And she was, I mean, I had the pleasure of knowing her, so I can attest, she was a powerhouse.
What was her sign, her birthday?
You know, I actually have to ask my mom that.
No, I can't believe I don't know that. I'm sure it was like something like
I could
Aries
text my mom
or
on the
something.
dime and she'd be like, da-da-da.
Okay.
So, okay. Must follow up on that. Thank you for that question.
Yeah.
So she landed at Ellis Island, and through her journey, she discovered chiropractics. And in the 20s, she ended up going to chiropractic school. She was the first woman to attend chiropractic school. She was the first woman chiropractor, and she discovered natural health and wellness in her version, like, you know, when it wasn't
eons before it became
not even a thing.
Yeah.
So she moved to Iowa. She went to the Palmer School of Chiropractic. She became a chiropractor. She moved back to Bayside, New York, got married, built a huge, thriving practice.
As a woman then. What year was this?
This was the 30s.
Oh my gosh. So it was right after the Depression.
Yeah. And she lived and worked through the Depression. She graduated chiropractic school in 1929. Wow. So she was a true maverick.
Oh my gosh.
And there's like the legends and stories of her are just endless. One of my favorites is that the night of the Titanic sinking, she woke up screaming and saying, the water's coming in. So that, I mean, she was just such a seer. And at the height of her career, she pulled a ligament in her leg and she couldn't work anymore. And this woman was a real doer. And she was just going absolutely crazy that she couldn't work. And she had a dream that the ocean would cure her. And she yelled to my great-grandfather, who was a police chief, a totally different kind of guy.
Like normal Joe.
100%.
Wow.
And said, take me to the water, in her thick German accent. And this was the dead of winter. And she went down to the water and started swimming. And
this was on Long Island?
On the Long Island Sound
December.
in Bayside, New York. Yeah. Dead of winter. Wow. And started swimming, and within months she was completely healed, and she ended up swimming in the ocean about 300 days a year. And her definition of a bad day was when the ice was too thick to cut through.
And are we talking about the ocean ice?
We are talking about
like driving.
Snow on the sand, ice on the Sound. We have pictures of her in her bathing gown, standing on the snow, ready to swim. And she also got my great-grandfather to swim with her. And they started one of the first polar bear clubs in the country. And
now we have like Wim Hof who? Come on.
Exactly.
Like, what are we even talking about with Wim Hof?
She's like, well, it's his breathing method.
Oh my God.
She was really an incredible woman. She lived to be over 100. I had the opportunity to know her, and she really created a culture of health and wellness and well-being in our family. My mom loves to say that she thought like the normal thing when you saw your grandmother was to just get completely adjusted, have your neck cracked immediately. And she raised her kids eating health food in ways that were totally different, like smoothies and sprouts and wheat breads.
And what year would that have been? Like what years would that have been?
So it's pretty much continued through our family since the 30s onward.
And all of the partners of each of the children have just been super on board?
Yeah.
Wow.
My grandmother, slightly less so, but she still was really living that life. My mom always liked to talk about how she went to school as like the kid with the wheat bread. Yeah. And so she passed that on, and I was the kid at school with a yam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or a container of sprouted lentils. And just the super weirdo foods. So my mom was really the one who resonated the most deeply with my grandmother's journey. And she went on to study shiatsu, polarity therapy, and in her very early 20s went to a healing center called the Alive Polarity Fellowship, which was on Orcas Island off the coast of Washington.
This explains a chapter of your life.
Now it all starts here. And it was a health and wellness retreat. When I was just on Orcas, everyone calls it, the Polarity Institute. And similar to something like Esalen or this whole world of retreats and wellness centers that's growing now. She originally in her early 20s was diagnosed with ovarian cancer.
Your mom?
And it was a questionable diagnosis.
This was pre-children?
Very early 20s.
Oh my God.
And she instead went to the retreat center and did a 21-day wheatgrass cleanse, really did a lot of work, completely healed herself, and ended up staying on and becoming a practitioner and a teacher. And that's where she met my dad. And
so he was already in it.
He was already there.
He was drinking the Kool-Aid.
There was no question there.
Yeah.
They were both deep in that life.
Okay.
And that's actually where I was born. Wow. So we ended up, it was an intentional community and commune. And I was born there and was there till I was 8.
So you are like Nitsa, but we call her Nitsa.
Yeah.
Everybody knows she's coming on soon. So you're like those girls. Was it nudist as well?
Yes.
Okay. Clothing optional.
Well, the baths were nudist. It's there's so many parallels to Esalen. Genevieve and Nitsa both there's so much of our childhood that overlaps. And that's actually originally why we were introduced. Like, oh, you two grew up on communes. You'll get each other.
It's like children of alcoholics. Oh, you guys get it. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, like, we all do.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true.
We know now what a privilege it was to be raised this way. And we all grew up thinking, oh my God, this is insane.
Yeah. I was actually having a really deep conversation about it the other night at dinner with Nitsa. And I was like, how many kids that you grew up with are like fucked up now? And she was like, honestly, I craved structure. And, because my parents were separated, I had a little bit of it. But she was like, it's really hard for the kids who didn't have any structure at all.
Oh, there are definitely a lot of kids who didn't thrive in that culture. Yeah. And it presented a unique set of challenges. But some of my rebellious years, which I definitely had the other side of it, but included things like wearing V-neck sweaters and joining student council.
They were like, what is this traitor doing?
But I did definitely get in previous to that, hitchhiking around and following the Grateful Dead.
Okay, yeah.
They let me get that very young, so I'm glad I got that while I still could.
Good.
So yeah, the preppy phase was really my biggest rebellion.
Amazing. And so this is a good place to interject and say that your sun sign is Taurus.
Yes.
Do you know your human design?
The Enneagram.
Okay, I'm not too familiar with this, but tell us what you are in that, because many people are familiar with it listening.
Okay, and then I think I do know my human design.
Okay.
So I actually retook my Enneagram test last night.
Ooh.
And I have always been a 3-4.
Okay.
Which has completely shifted. And last night I took the test and I'm an overwhelmingly 2,
Whoa.
Which is the helper.
Do you change in that system?
So
like you evolve?
I think that I have really evolved through the process of this business, which I'm really am a helper.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. I think I've decided I'm going to take that test like every year, every 2 years, and see how it shifts, because the 4 just disappeared from my chart,
entirely.
Which is the me laying on the floor, super emotional.
You're like,
cheek
thank you.
to the floor, and deep in my feelings, I feel everything, and she's still in there. Yeah. But the 3 barely made it on. And I've also become a little bit more of one thing that's been really solid for me, which is the loyalist.
Okay. I love that. And many people that listen to this are so familiar, and I really need to dig in, because it's the one
I would really love if anyone knows about this. If I need to learn more, because I was absolutely shocked to see that did change so squarely.
Interesting. And what about human design?
So is that you
could be a manifesting generator, a reflector, or a projector. Do any of those ring a bell?
I would say I would consider myself more of a creator.
Okay.
So that probably falls under manifestor.
Everybody thinks that at first, but wait till you take it and you'll probably be surprised, because I was like, I'm definitely, it was actually Nitsa who introduced me to it years ago. And I think I had the reaction that everybody has, that I was a projector. She is as well. We actually have a very similar, like, of the top parts of the chart. And I was like, oh, I'm not a manifestor. Which now, knowing my fiance who is one and how intense it is to be one of those, I'm actually quite grateful I'm not one of those. He is one of the few who lives his design, and a really great snippet of that is they can be very polarizing. So when they walk in a room, you either love them or hate them. And he is very much that. Like, I equate him often to Kanye West and Trump, which is so intense. Yeah, so we'll have to get that from you at some point.
2 follow-ups.
Two follow-ups, yeah. So we're waiting on your
my
mom.
to-do list from this.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's segue into how your mom developed this brand.
So we were living in our commune, and it was a retreat center. It was a full-blown commune, too. There were about 100 adults and just waves of children being brought in, and everyone had a job. My dad was the activities and social director because people would come to the property and do these wellness retreats, and my mom was given the job of running the spa. And she just looked at it like she would look at food. She always says she's the least likely person to start a beauty company. We don't wear makeup. We don't even know how. And she had no concept of skincare or beauty. She used almond oil and water. So the property, we ended up moving to a hot springs, and she inherited a really large spa property, started developing the spa, and every brand came and pitched her their products because she realized she needed products to do facials and wraps and all of these things. And she just sat there and listened to their pitch and read the back of the label. And she noticed two things, and these two things are so much the catalyst of the brand, which is, one, they were filled with a bunch of ingredients she didn't understand. And she looked at skin as now is commonly seen the largest organ in our body, and thought, I wouldn't put this in my body, so I'm not putting it on it. She went to the library and researched and became even more clear in her convictions. And the other thing she noticed is that whether a product was $5 or $50, it had the same exact ingredients, and that women were really just being played on their insecurities and marketed to while being sold ingredients that weren't safe. So she just thought, okay, I can do better. So she ended up creating, and this was the very early 80s, her own products. And they were not preserved products. She grew, she had a garden. She was growing fields of tule root where she was creating mud baths and doing salt wraps and herbs, and everything was refrigerated and made fresh. And the spa developed an insane cult following.
Wow.
And she thought, okay, I'm on to something. Then the group broke up,
as they do. Damn it.
It's usually sex.
Yeah,
drugs.
Father Yod's a great example.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
it's always something.
We were huge drama there.
Okay.
So the group broke up, and my mom just kept holding on to the decision that she wanted to create a product line. And she just continued to move forward in this direction. She ended up becoming a single mom and raising us. It was really incredible now. She did cranial osteopathic work and body work and supported us solely on this. And she just continued tinkering away. And we literally grew up with like seaweed in the bathtub and, essential oils everywhere.
Was she harvesting the seaweed straight from the ocean?
She was at first, yes.
Wow.
And experimenting with dried seaweeds and powdered seaweeds. And I mean, everyone just called. They said that when they'd come to our family, it was our family smell. There was no escaping it. My little brother just smelled like lavender all the time and got used to it. So she just kept tinkering, and we ended up moving to Malibu. Was
it okay? You've got to tell me what Malibu was like then, because now it's a thing. But back then it was like farmhouses and surf culture, right?
Exactly. So my mom was looking for a place where we could go to public school and where we could live in nature, and she could still be close to a city so she could have clients to do body work.
Yeah.
And she discovered Malibu, and I remember for about a year, we all drove around and she had us say mantras. We're finding the perfect house by the grace of God. We're finding the perfect house for our family.
Oh my God, I love her. What's her sign?
She's a Sagittarius.
Of course.
Yeah. And very much so.
Okay.
And we found this amazing home and that we could afford that was like a rambling dream. We slept outside every night growing up. Wow. Our actual beds were on the porch.
That's my dream here.
Yeah.
To create.
The sleeping outside life is
crucial.
It's everything.
Yeah.
And like having a real bed, the only real trick is you have to double down comforter.
Yeah.
So that the dew doesn't soak into the second one.
Or you have a sleeping bag situation, right?
We treated it like real beds.
Okay, you're
Sheets,
like, we're not,
down
this
comforters,
isn't
mattresses,
amateur hour.
the whole deal.
Okay.
No, it's a lifestyle. It's a long, we were an almost 365. We would even sometimes sleep in the rain. You just tuck under an awning.
I am so impressed. I'm just going to follow you around now. This is too cool.
I know, my mom is really, she's such a visionary.
Wow.
So moving to Malibu was a complete culture shock, but we also had this really beautiful home life where we grew our food, we had chickens, we slept outside every night, and we were so, we grew our own kombucha.
On the DL.
The whole drill. And it was honestly the most idyllic place to grow up.
Yeah.
The public school is really small. Malibu really is a thing.
Now, especially.
It has changed a lot. It felt to me a lot more like Topanga.
Back then.
Yes.
Yeah, I looked at Malibu first and I couldn't get my fiance. Because he comes from Marin. So he comes from like all that up there. And he was like, I just can't do all that again. Like at least Topanga still feels like Woodstock. But I think what Malibu has exploded into is all of his shadow from childhood.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I think I still hold on to that version of Malibu, and it's harder to find. It's still there, but it's a small pocket.
Yeah.
It was so much so that it was cool to drive a beat up truck. This friend of mine who I didn't even conceptualize what it meant that they had helicopters and planes.
Wow.
I mean, I never really, but like she drove an old Volvo.
Wow.
And like it wasn't there. It was like actually awkward to have it was just a different culture.
Yeah.
And so it was a really magical place to grow up.
Wow.
And that's where my mom just continued tinkering. And we kind of first launched Osea in Tupperwares in Malibu and like in little hand-drawn jars.
No way. So it's really, even though it was birthed technically somewhere else, it was refined and became a thing. So it is a Malibu.
The products were really created in Malibu.
Yeah, it's in Malibu.
And inspired, and being close to the ocean and the sea was really a huge part of why we wanted to live there so much.
And this was at the brink of when you couldn't even find natural products outside of the wellness store being like carrier oils of jojoba. I mean, what challenges did she face putting this into the world?
So, the first challenge, one of the ways my mom taught us growing up was we each had jobs and responsibilities, and I was always, as the oldest, kind of bossing everyone around to start as one job.
Torn.
But I also managed the finances and had some little mini businesses of my own. So when I was in high school was really when the products were ready to start selling. Mm-hmm. And so I really got to see pretty much every step of the way. Mm-hmm. And the original challenges were no one thought what we were doing made any sense.
It wasn't important.
No. I remember when I was doing the sales, like in the kind of the late 90s, I used to have conversations with buyers and they would say, why is this in glass? Take it out of glass. That old store Kitson that used to be around.
I remember you just said it.
That buyer yelled at me to the highest degree and said, put this stuff in plastic and make it smell better and we'll buy it. And that was the kind of conversations we had. And people would say, like, luxury customers don't care about natural. Go sell to a health food store. And in fact, we did. Mm-hmm. In the late 90s, I did a launch in Whole Foods, but no one was going to Whole Foods then.
Yeah.
And so it's been a really interesting evolution of the brand because we spent so much of our beginning work explaining something.
Yeah.
We used to blow people's minds when we would say the skin is the largest organ in your body.
Wow.
When the birth control patch came out, that was like my favorite thing ever because I could use it and when the tobacco patch. Look at these patches. Do you realize that's going through your skin? Yeah,
because people actually had a visual now.
And that was one of my number one. I mean, I was using that rudimentary of sales tools. And as a result of which, so much of our brand is still now catching up because it was virtually impossible to sell a facial oil. People thought facial oils were just insane.
I mean, and that's all we used to use at one point in time in the human experience.
That was it.
It's
actually, our essential hydrating oil was our first product. And it's just was such a completely different mindset around beauty. And it really started with food and it opened the conversation and now it's just a whole new world.
We're going to get into the ingredients in a minute because I'm actually really excited to talk about those. But for the person who's not totally a convert yet, they haven't understood that they do need to make these shifts. I had to do it technically because I had endocrine issues. Even though I was all organic since I was 18, most things I did were natural. And I was always in pursuit of this like very old natural lifestyle, holistic lifestyle, that was my last thing to transition back at 27. Now it's a no-brainer. I mean, I get it, but I can't even get back to what my mindset was then. Now, what is it that you're having to educate on? Or for the person who's even remotely considering why they want to switch to something that's so pure, what are those conversations like now, or those teaching points?
That's something that's really evolving for us. I think that one of the primary points is actually understanding what natural even means. So we don't even use the word natural because we're not a natural product.
And
Nothing's
also
natural.
at this point too, natural is a really terribly overused chemical marketing point. So
Absolutely. And the thing that we spend a lot of time educating on is the total lack of regulation, which can actually be kind of an overwhelming subject to learn about because the FDA doesn't regulate cosmetics. It regulates food and drug, and cosmetics is almost totally self-regulated as an industry.
Yeah.
Labels aren't regulated. What goes into your product isn't, and there are so many levels where that impacts a brand and a product. The raw material suppliers aren't regulated. So it just trickles on every level of the production. So there's also a lot of trickiness in labeling, and we are constantly having to, this conversation has really evolved in probably the past 4 years, but there was a moment when very simple single ingredient products were all the rage. And people were labeling their ingredients to say rose, geranium, maybe a couple of other basic ingredients, and they were totally incomplete labels. So there wasn't an emulsifier or there wasn't a surfactant. And so really educating on natural, we're really shifting some of our marketing to provide more tools to what natural derived, which is actually the technical term, means.
Tell us about that.
So natural derived is essentially something that, for example, an example of an ingredient that's natural derived is jojoba oil. It is a natural product. I take that back. It's so tricky to talk about.
Yeah.
So jojoba oil is actually an organic compound that grows, and it's synthetically made into a lab where
Meaning
it can be
cold pressed.
extracted, cold pressed.
Yeah.
But then there's also much more complex ingredients like a vitamin C. You can have a diester of vitamin C. This is really where my mom digs much more deeper into the ingredient aspect of it. But understanding how to read a label, and truthfully, I think one of the things that is starting to circle back around in natural, and really what everyone calls it, is clean beauty, which is an incredible term that it exists. But consumers are now looking for effective products again. So having to create much more complex formulas that simultaneously deliver results.
Wow. Well, then this is a good segue into, I want to talk about, you use 3 specific seaweeds that tend to be at the base of, the root of the brand. Am I correct on that? Tell us about those and what their properties do, because they're 3 I've never heard of.
So our 3 main seaweeds are Gigartina, Undaria, and Macrocystis. And seaweeds are often known by different names, but the primary seaweed that we're focused on right now is called Undaria. And a couple of interesting aspects of our seaweed. Fundamentally, the reason we use seaweed is it's an incredibly bioavailable plant, and the extracts mean they're super bioavailable, so the nutrients are more readily absorbed into your skin. So one of the things additionally is seaweed is like a sponge, so it absorbs what's in its environment. We used to purchase all of our seaweed from the Brittany Coast decades ago.
Yes.
And
I love the Brittany Coast.
It has unfortunately started to get a little more polluted.
Yeah.
So my mom had a dream that She needed to go to Argentina.
She's your grandma incarnate.
She really is.
Oh my! But even though your grandmother was around, it's just crazy.
And I'm also my grandmother incarnate.
Wow.
She's her grandmother.
Oh my gosh!
And now I'll probably get to have my mom because it skips a generation.
Oh no, totally.
And one of us is the completely rooted, planted one, and then the other's out in the sky,
just flying around.
Totally. It is what makes us such a great team. So she had a dream that she had to go to Argentina because she could find new seaweed there. And she ended up meeting, just by sheer coincidence, a family that are third generation seaweed harvesters off the Patagonian coast. And we ended up, this was about 16 years ago. We've been partners with them ever since. And we get all of our seaweed there. It's all hand harvested. Basically the reason why it's such a unique environment is it's not a waterway. It's one of the purest bodies of water, and it's a really cold and frigid environment where the seaweed flourishes. So our primary seaweed we get from there is Undaria. And Undaria is actually a globally invasive species. Wow. So it came to Patagonia as well as a number of other regions on the bottom of Japanese fishing boats.
Wow.
And it is one of the fastest growing plants on the planet. It can grow, I want to say, feet within a day.
What's that? I mean, this is a total tangent, but we're going to get back to it. And maybe Lila, but that really invasive seaweed, because of obviously climate change on the coast of Tulum. Which one's that one? It's just like taking over. That is a whole
other thing.
Okay.
I want to say it's called Marama.
Okay.
I think it's Marama.
Okay.
I have to double check the name of that.
Yeah.
It's not just, it's insane what's happening.
It's insane.
Not just Tulum, Barbados, Bermuda, the entire Caribbean. Yeah.
Because of the heat.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And it's eroding the coastline. We work with a lot of spas and hotels that are having to actually close because this particular seaweed smells a lot.
It's horrific.
It is really
so
bad.
Jeez.
This is one of the great things about the seaweeds we use is it's very intentional because they don't smell.
Yes. We'll get into the incentive of it, but continue. I'm going to stop bothering you.
It's a huge part of it. So the Undaria is hand harvested. Divers, and we've gone out to the harvest many times, swim to the bottom of the plant, cut it at the base. We haul it up and then we sun dry the products, dry the seaweed. And then from there, we make powders and extracts that are used in our products.
And what is that main one's benefit?
The benefits of seaweed are that it's incredibly softening to the skin. Alginates are used to turn wood pulp into paper. So I love to think of that analogy of what it does to your skin. It has a really jelly-like property. It's almost like a silicone.
Yeah.
And so it's super softening, hydrating. Well, the hydration really comes from the oils and items that it's put in.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly rich in vitamins and nutrients for the skin.
And minerals.
Yeah. Vitamins, nutrients, minerals that are easily absorbed because it's a really watery extract. So the Undaria we use in multiple different ways. The other one we get from that area is Gigartina, which looks very similar to the invasive seaweed, but is a very different white algae that we harvest as it washes up on the shore. So one of the great things about that, we use that actually in raw pieces in our treatments and facials.
At the spa?
Yeah.
Which everybody should know is in Venice. I was lucky enough to have a treatment there. Oh, incredible. Amazing. And it was actually what I loved about that, not to get off tangent during that treatment, is it really gets back to basics of how facials are given. Because now people are getting so fancy with all these things. But I walked out of there with such the most important, pivotal, basic techniques looking phenomenal. And I did a whole Instagram story about it.
And we actually use that seaweed. We create a gel that we use in the facial massage. One of the aspects of those facials that I'm particularly happy about is that it incorporates craniosacral therapy. My mom has created a number of different holds to deepen the experience for the client and really to show everyone how you can do so much more with less, with slower, more intentional movements. And that's particularly important to us to teach that piece because it helps therapists reduce the repetitive motion to their wrists, which is a real concern.
That's incredible. Okay, I'll let you continue on the seaweed.
Okay.
And the different properties.
Yeah. So, I mean, really just each of the ingredients has a different function that my mom formulates with. And I think
that's basically okay. Good.
I mean, listen, I could talk about seaweed the entire time, but next we're bringing my mom on because her passion on formulating with seaweed it's just next level.
I could geek out too on it. Well, the things that I think are really worth mentioning too for the person who might not totally be sold on clean beauty care in general is that what are the certifications that go into your particular, like what sets it apart? Because you guys are really above and beyond and you're seen in the industry as a very high quality product, that stands out. What makes it that way through? I know it's organic, it's kosher, but the other certifications and the other things we should know about it.
So the products themselves are not certified organic.
Okay.
There's very little certification.
Just the seaweed
is all certified organic.
Okay.
The majority of our ingredients are also certified organic. I would say the primary thing that sets us apart is our commitment to quality and to making the products natural, which sounds a little vague, but that is our primary intention with the brand. We're creating products that are safe and effective for women. And the FDA guidelines in no way set forth what we should do. We are certified vegan. We're certified gluten-free. We run tests on the products. But most of that work is work we're electively doing to create a clean product around our entire supply chain, even starting with our seaweed source. We know the farmers. We're at the harvest. We create the raw materials and raw ingredients from our seaweed directly. And staying heavily involved in our manufacturing process is one of the most important aspects of the clean quality for us.
Because you guys are still totally family run, right?
Yes.
At this point?
Yeah.
It means your siblings are all involved, everything?
Yeah. So my parents, a little less so. My mom is our complete head of product development and oversees all of the new products. Also, she spends a lot of time meditating on the product and the brand, and she really holds the vision of the company.
Yeah.
I'm, as my mom likes to say, the boss lady.
Yeah.
My sister runs our social, my dad runs our financials, and then we have this incredible team, which is very much our extended family now.
That is just mind-blowing. But
it is really a family business.
I mean, I just don't even think those really exist on your guys' scale that much anymore. I mean, that's profound.
Part of the evolution of the brand has been speaking about ourselves differently. We actually used to hide that we were a small family business.
Why?
Because it was
it felt
actually
amateur?
A deterrent to people.
Oh.
We've been at this for 23 years. And now our authentic story of who we really are is so valued and appreciated, but we often undertell it. We didn't even talk about the fact that it started at a commune till very recently because we were having to tone ourselves back constantly.
Yeah.
We couldn't say things like non-toxic beauty or we wouldn't even use a negative term to talk about beauty, because if you were to say non-toxic beauty, someone would say, what are you even talking about? So we acted much bigger than we were. We were running the whole thing out of the garage with just the two of us, and we had to appear differently because in the beauty industry at that time, there really weren't small businesses.
I mean, your direct competitor, I assume, in the what I would call allopathic world would be like creme de la mer, right? Because their whole thing is seaweed.
Yeah, and my mom met the founder actually decades ago, and he was first starting too.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I get it, because that's seen as a very, very high-end fancy product that is French and all of these, I don't know if it's smoke and mirrors or what, when it was first starting out, but I understand feeling like you had to kind of keep up with that in order to get your product into places that mattered.
Yeah, so we totally forget it. We now get to be more of who we are.
That's amazing. What's been the biggest rock bottom in the company, like in the development process? Or growth or scaling, just any of it for the entrepreneur out there?
I would say a real rock bottom for me was getting regulated by the FDA.
Ooh, let's talk about you guys are like Rainbow Bridge or something.
Something what?
The raw milk Rainbow Bridge. Is that what that was called, that store?
That was actually right around the same time.
Wow.
Yes, when the raw milk people got busted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, the one in Venice. Or was it a different one?
No, I think it's Venice. It was Venice.
It was the same one.
Washington.
Yeah, they were within the same year. So we got a regulatory letter from the FDA, and this was a real personal low for me because the level of fear I experienced was so dramatic and massive. And we were regulated for using what I like to call the H word, which is healing.
Oh, you can't throw that around, man.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
And we were regulated for talking about the healing properties of tea tree. And that tea tree was antiseptic and antibacterial. It was part of a operation that the FDA was running where they busted about 9 different natural brands. And I dug very deep into what was happening. And essentially, last year was the first year that clean beauty, indie beauty started to really cut into the sales of the large major beauty players. And that's how the entire beauty industry was run. So people in food, they've seen this happen.
Oh, yeah.
The blowback, the smear campaigns, and that's just starting to happen.
We're seeing it constantly. Like right now, some pretty big bill is being passed.
What's the worst part about it is they're being very deceptively passed under consumer safety and awareness.
That's
where you and I would vote for them.
Oh, it's terrible.
And they're sponsored. A huge piece of legislation was coming out of New Jersey. This was a couple years ago. The home of Johnson & Johnson in the district. And it is just beginning to hit beauty because 5 years ago, clean beauty wasn't a thing.
It wasn't a threat.
No.
And now there's going to be like
10 years ago,
lobbyists.
organic supermarkets weren't really a thing.
Yeah. And now Amazon with Whole Foods. It's mind-blowing.
It's so crazy. Nutraceuticals, the vitamin companies, that lead law that came out that actually negatively impacted natural and organic vitamin makers. So that was probably the low. And I was so upset that we weren't regulated for the things I'd want to be regulated for. What was in our products, the ingredients, the this, the that. But as with most lows, it was really an incredible teacher because I'm so glad that it happened when it did because I learned how to speak in an FDA-approved language. Mm-hmm. No more H word. Yeah, you won't see that. Yep. And got to share that knowledge with a lot of other clean beauty brands. And I still get them calling me whenever anyone else gets regulated. Somehow they find their way to me and I get to send them my resources. And we ended up resolving it. And I am grateful it happened when it did. Yeah. Because it would be difficult to change all of our packaging now. And each year it gets, as we grow, it would be more and more difficult.
Absolutely.
But that was a real moment.
It's the life of being a witch. There's still, everyone's still out to burn. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right.
The witch hunts are happening under, the guise of safety, which is just mind blowing to me. And I won't even get into the whole California situation that's just gone. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. I'm like, should I have kids? Maybe I shouldn't have kids.
We can do that as our next one.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you on that drama.
So I'm quickly interrupting this episode to invite you, if you're ready to start your manifestation journey, or if anything you've heard in our manifestation episodes has piqued your interest to begin. We have a la carte workshops in everything from the basics bundle, which is what we recommend to everyone who starts. It's the formula that actually teaches you how to manifest, unblocked inner child, and unblocked shadow. We also have a la carte workshops on love and money. But the real gem is the Pathway membership because it encompasses every single workshop we have. It's a year-long membership with full access to the few a la carte offerings we have and exclusive workshops not available anywhere else, such as the daily practice, which is what everybody in the Pathway uses, hopefully at least 3 times a week to daily in order to truly create the new neural pathways that one needs in order to manifest, and houses the library of our deep imaginings, which is our unique hypnosis process that allows you to get into your subconscious and overwrite those old neural pathways, creating the new ones. You can use our special code EXPANDED, all caps, EXPANDED, to receive $20 off your first a la carte workshop purchase or $20 off your first month of the Pathway. Again, that's all caps, EXPANDED, EXPANDED. Okay, now back to the episode. So getting back into the whole unscented world, because I think this is really important when I now on this journey of unscented, however long I have to go through it for the healing that I'm doing right now, it was actually really hard to find products out there that and we're talking, the woman I'm working with is like, I don't want your partner bringing roses to the house. They're too strong. It's like an adrenal stimulation for you at this moment. So I'm full blown unscented, which has also been really empowering to see what life is like just smelling the natural pheromones in the world without anything else, sort of masking that. It's been a cool thing. But let's talk about some of the products that I've been using and loving so much from the brand. And I want you to explain what the magic is that's happening in these products, because it is magical. So the first and foremost, the absolute, like I'm traveling with it now, travel size, is the C Vitamin Boost.
Oh.
Because I'm hyper dry, and it's been so nourishing, and I don't smell a scent in that. Am I crazy? Is it scented?
No, it's unscented.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So let's first talk about that a little bit, and then I'm going to move into the other ones, because I actually, just on a selfish note, want to know what's so magical about that. Because I've used tons of hydrosols, and I always have to use something under the base of oil because I'm so dry and nothing penetrates.
Well, I'm so glad to hear you say that the unscented is a benefit, because that one definitely smells as naturalish as it is.
Yeah.
And
I mean, seaweed.
Yeah. You smell the seaweed in that one. It has some red algae, which has a bit of a scent. It's just a really nutrient rich mist. It has red wine extract, pomegranate, the copper, zinc, manganese, correct that. It has some different vitamin ferments, and essentially it was made to just be a really hydrating vitamin boost to your skin. It's not a hydrosol. So a hydrosol is essentially essential oils and water, and smells great and is super hydrating to your skin. It's really more of a vitamin booster for your skin. And
it's not even a toner. It's literally a vitamin. It's like a mineral vitamin booster.
No, that's another fun fact of like ways we've had to change our language, because 20 years ago, toning was everything.
Yeah.
And it was revolutionary that we refused to have a toner in the line. So we called it a toning mist, because no one even knew what a facial mist was. It was so insane. But it's actually meant to be used pre-oil, because it's a carrier for your oils. And as your essential oils permeate your skin, they bind to the vitamins and nutrients in the mist and are more readily absorbed.
Wow. Because I personally can't use, like, my understanding of what a toner, like a classic toner is, always seems to include witch hazel. And I'm way too dry to put anything like that on my skin.
Typically, a toner was originally created, in our opinion, to remove the residue of your cleanser, or to do the work that your cleanser wasn't doing. Do you remember like those clean and
like
clear?
Clinique, whatever.
Yeah, and you'd have that nice dirty cotton swab afterwards. If you're cleansing your skin with a cleanser that does not leave a residue, or it doesn't have a heavy surfactant, you don't need to use a toner.
Yes.
Or if you're cleansing your face with a cleanser that's rich in botanicals and oils and minerals that you want to leave on your skin.
So
you want to leave the residue
mess
of that.
up the pH balance. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I love that particular product, and I'm like, why is this so magical? And I can feel it the moment it hits my face. My skin's literally like, it sucks it all up in this like dry, deserty LA. And even in New York, I just flew back from New York. I didn't have to use it as much. I would just use it.
It's also amazing in flight.
So amazing. And thank God you make the travel size. Today I was even actually on the site, because I was like, I'm gearing up to go I'm traveling a lot, like speaking tour, Scotland, all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I hope all my favorite products are in travel size, but
because travel is so much a part of our family culture, and really like the most important thing to us. Everything is in travel.
Is it? Because I couldn't find
every single item.
So I can get everything I'm about to list for my trips travel size off the internet.
Yes.
Oh my God, because I couldn't find them today. But I guess if I'm on
the website.
This is good. Okay, so now I know how to navigate it. So if I'm on, let's say my next one that I really want to talk about is the brightening serum, I just have to click to the like.
That is travel sized already. Because it's 0.6 ounce. Yes.
Done. And I think so is the high, I never say this right, hyaluronic acid.
The hyaluronic sea serum.
Okay, so.
Yes, which I thought you would say was your favorite. I was so excited to hear you say C Vitamin Boost.
Well, I have a little bit of a fear. I want to talk about this, and you can educate me on this. So I only use anything that's seemingly sort of like, what would you call that? Like, not stripping, but what is that called when you exfoliating, which I find happens when I use the hyaluronic. That's how I say the word, right?
Hyaluronic.
Hyaluronic. Say it one more time.
Hyaluronic.
I
think I'm only giving you a partially better pronunciation.
Okay, I don't know, but
hyaluronic.
This is how a hillbilly from Mariposa says it. So,
well, a hippie from Malibu says hyaluronic.
Okay, you're doing it better than I am. So what's happening? Is that like, is it exfoliating the skin when it's on? It's an acid that does that?
No.
Okay,
it is not. And actually, it is basically like a moisture flush for your skin.
Oh, because it's remarkable.
Deeply moisturizing. The one thing with that serum is you have to use a moisturizer or an oil afterwards.
I always do. I can't not do that with anything
because it actually helps pull the moisture into your skin.
Wow.
So you put that on and then you put something else on with it.
That's why my skin the next day, because I'll do it at night, normally it's just so plump and even.
That's exactly the benefit we would hope you would see.
So it's just hydrating it.
Deeply hydrating. And the way that my mom formulated that particular product is she used 3 different molecular weights of hyaluronic acid so that it would permeate the skin on different levels, combined each with 3 different seaweed chains.
Dude, you got
do you know how I found that product?
No.
My mom made it for herself.
And she just looked insane.
She was just using it for years. And I was like, Mom, she is just on her path.
I love her. She's just flying around.
She was like, look at my skin. Doesn't it look amazing?
It's insane.
And I ended up freaking out, taking the product, launching it. And it is one of our top sellers in the line.
Okay.
So
it makes my skin literally look like, when you've been biomatting for a week, eating really well, you're out in the sun enough, and it's like when people have, or women, progesterone, if they're, overproducing hormones, like that pregnancy glow. And I'm like, am I getting exfoliated? That's why my skin looks so insane. Hydrated. I'm just getting okay.
Deeply hydrated.
So I take this all back.
Okay.
The series of events of my favorites then is number 1 by far. And my only hesitation was, am I stripping my skin?
No, you're replenishing, nourishing and replenishing.
Oh my God. So I can use this morning, night, which I know it says on the bottle, but this is insane of a product.
Yes, you can use it morning, night, afternoon. We always like to say your skin doesn't really know what time it is.
Wow. Okay. So
it also is like what fits into your ritual, what fits into your lifestyle, what fits into your practice.
Your intuition, whatever's working. Yeah. So that's by far then my favorite product through the line, like hands down now that I know.
That's what I thought it was going to be. So I'm so glad we could clarify that.
I mean, like that will be a product in my cabinet for the rest of my life. No doubt about that.
I'm so excited to be part of your morning and night.
Forever. Will forever look like that pregnancy glow with that one. Now, the other one I've been really curious about because it, to me, intellectually just seems like it's incredible, but I want you to actually break down why it works so that I don't have any hesitation of ever using it. And it's, again, always in my cabinet. But what's going on with the Atmosphere Protection Cream?
The Atmosphere Protection Cream or the Advanced Protection Cream? Which one are you using?
Maybe I'm just saying pump, and it says Atmosphere on it.
That is the Atmosphere Protection Cream. So the concept of Atmosphere Protection Cream, first off, it's not an SPF, which is a point of confusion for a lot of people. We are working on an SPF.
I've been thinking it's like the way you use vitamin C to protect from antioxidants. Is that correct or no? Or something happening.
Yeah, there's some pollution protecting elements to it. Wind, it really creates a barrier on the skin as opposed to the mist and the serums that are more readily absorbed. Our intention with the moisturizer is to create a thin barrier on the skin. There's shea butter, there's a number of different amino acids, plant extracts, some botanical oils, and that is really meant to be like a finishing cream on top of all the other products you're using.
I see. Okay. And I see it like even it's inside Erewhon. So it's obviously a top seller, like incredible product.
It's one of my personal favorite products. Now we do have a totally unscented moisturizer.
Okay.
That does have some essential oils, the Atmosphere Cream.
Okay.
So our more rich moisturizer is called the Advanced Protection Cream.
I see.
And that is a really rich, much thicker film that it leaves on the skin. It's almost like an overnight moisture mask.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's also just deeply, deeply hydrating
Yes.
as well. And it doesn't actually just absorb right away. It's like over time it's hydrating.
Yeah, that's really the point of a moisturizer, especially with the atmosphere protection cream, is to create a protective barrier on the skin. A lot of people will use it actually underneath a sunscreen.
Okay, great. And then, I want to talk about the brightening serum. Because that, again, it's actually somebody on my team. Her name's Grace. She was like, girl, check out the bright. You think the other ones are good? And that's why I actually came at you guys and requested. I was like, do you think I could try the bright, So what's going on there? Because it's amazing.
So the brightening serum has one of the most active ingredients is the Matsuki mushroom. So it actually, one of the most amazing things about the way my mom formulates is she basically uses everything. So when an ingredient comes into vogue, like mushrooms are really popular right now.
Yeah.
It's have yet to find an ingredient that doesn't appear in the products. So there's two different brightening extracts. There's the bearberry and the Matsuki mushroom. And again, that's also with a couple of different seaweeds. And that's what gives it that jelly-like texture where it feels, again, like a silicone, almost like a silicone gel.
Yep.
And that's actually the seaweed.
Wow. That's
That
what's giving it
creates the
that
base, that gives it that slip.
Okay, because the way that I'm using it, and I want you to tell me if I'm correct, is I actually don't even use cleanser. I find that it's the easiest when like your mom, just use water and a washcloth kind of thing.
We have cleansers in the line.
Yeah, you do.
My mom and I sometimes make jokes that we're the worst customers on the cleanser.
Because you're not using them all the time.
I love washing my face.
Yeah.
And I definitely find that it helps my skin.
Yeah.
Someone dealing with blemishes, excess oil, like more of an acne-prone skin type, cleanser can be of incredible benefit.
Yeah.
To someone with a more normal, balanced skin, if you're not putting makeup on, cleanse as you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure my entire team will be like, how could you have said that?
Yeah. Well, no, that's actually
we really
something...
believe in doing less with more.
Yeah, and obviously using quality.
Excuse me, correction. More with less.
More with less. Less with more.
I mean, I'll do less with more sometimes too.
And so this is what I'm going, this is like my process. And I want you to tell me if I should be kind of switching things up or anything like that. But I'm usually cleansing with just water and a washcloth is how it's like my own natural little exfoliant.
Keep that skin balanced.
Keeps it balanced. And then I use the vitamin boost, the C vitamin boost, which I know that's because I need hydration, but there are two others that are for other people. Maybe you can talk about those so I'm not so selfish taking up all the time.
We actually just have one other mist, which is called the C minerals. And it's a little more active. It has a lot of dead sea salts in it.
Okay.
So it is not totally appropriate for sensitive skin.
Okay, great.
But that one, the side benefit of that product is it takes away the red from a sunburn.
Oh.
It has aloe vera, dead sea salts, lysine, a number of different amino acids, a couple different algae, and I also use it as hairspray.
Oh, wow.
I don't wash my hair.
Because it's salt spray.
It's salt spray.
Wow.
So I love to put it on my hair.
You don't wash your hair?
I don't.
You just go into the ocean all the time?
I go into the ocean, or I pour an herbal infusion where I'll boil up some herbs. Actually, my neighbor is currently on a bender with boiling herbs and making us hair wash. So
what are your current herbs you're using?
Rosemary, lavender, thyme. I think she put lemongrass, and boil it and then do a rinse with my hair.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I'll sometimes do an apple cider vinegar rinse.
Yeah, for like a nice deep conditioning for it. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And note to people, take that recipe. That's wonderful. Okay, so then I'll do the C vitamin boost. Then what I do at nighttime now, I'm always going to be using the whatever acid.
Hyaluronic C serum.
So the best product I think in the entire line is the C serum, the hyaluronic C serum. I'm going to do that. Or that's because when I was doing it, I was like, this is too good to be true. When I used that, it was like, oh my gosh. So that, and then I put the atmosphere cream over it, and that's a good night.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's perfect.
And in the morning, I do
And
the
then
brightening.
I think I would add the advanced protection cream for a heavier moisturizer as well. Especially as the seasons change. In Topanga, you're going to get the Santa Anas, the dryness.
Yeah.
We also do have an unscented facial oil.
Which one's that?
The Undaria Argan Oil.
Perfect.
Which is an algae-infused argan oil.
Okay, great. I'm literally after this going to go load up now that I know that I can. So when for the people who are navigating and big travelers, like you just click on any of the products, and when you choose the sizing, it'll have an option as travel.
Yeah. And if there's not a travel option, then it's already under 3.4 ounces.
Oh, so don't even,
not
stop fretting and don't be an airhead like me. Got it. Okay, so somebody who has, like you were saying before, more acne prone, oily, what would be like their top 3 things they should know about?
100% the ocean cleansing mud.
Okay.
Which my mom made for us like in our early teenage years. And I always like to say this was before she really figured out fragrancing with essential oils. So I used to plug my nose and wash my face because it really did smell like
you're like
such intense seaweed. Now it has an incredible pepperminty scent, and it's a really deep pore cleanser, and different from like an oily skin cleanser. Anyone who's listening who has oily skin knows that feeling when you wash your face, you get that tight feeling. This instead doesn't strip the oil, which doesn't overactivate the oil production on the skin. Ocean cleansing mud, the blemish balm, and then one of my favorites is our essential corrective complex, which is a spot treatment, and it's a blend of essential oils for acne. And that, talk about hard sells, that was probably the hardest sell in the line until about 5 years ago when people realized, okay, essential oils are actually good for your skin. So that is, I even just like, as I get little hormonal breakouts monthly, that's my saving grace product.
And I will plug, that's I think important, right before I went to this totally unscented world, I was using all the time the essential hydrating oil underneath my actual oil, and it was phenomenal as well.
I mean, it's definitely my number one product.
Is it really?
100%.
You just keep that in your bag all the time
in
with
my
a
pocket.
Vitamin boost or something? Because you can get away with just those 2 on the go.
Yeah. Okay. That, I'd say, I like to always keep products in my pocket. And I'm constantly giving them away or taking products out at a party. My new favorite product in the line is the Vagus nerve oil.
Yeah, tell us what's going on there, because when I went to go get a treatment, they were talking about it, but I don't know anything about it.
So this is also one of my mom's creations. And it is a blend. I mean, they're all her creations, but this one goes on the list of her crazier ones. Of her being up in the sky and my saying, I don't know if this is a good idea, but we'll just do it.
Okay.
And now it's the results that people are getting with it, and just the popularity it's gaining. She was right. It's a blend of essential oils to activate the vagus nerve and to tone the vagus nerve and activate the parasympathetic nervous system.
Wow.
And she created a blend to calm and soothe. And we actually had a friend run brainwave test. This isn't something we can write or put in our marketing.
Can't use the healing word with this, Adam. Right.
No, it's not doing any healing over here. And you can actually see a distinct difference in the brainwaves of someone after they put it on. And the feedback that we get from consumers is so interesting. I know personally, when I put it on, you apply it on the sides of your neck. The vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve in the body, the longest nerve that is essentially how your gut talks to your brain. And it's right the way that we apply and do some toning massage and stimulation, which there's a lot of details on our website and blog. We have a book on the vagus nerve that we did not write, but we are absolute believers in. And there's so much talk about the vagus nerve in trauma therapy and healing trauma from a somatic perspective. So you just apply it, and it's been helping with sleep and stress and anxiety. And for me, it's really just become a ritual throughout my day to stop and inhale deeply and just give myself a quick little massage.
Amazing. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, at the
It's
spa.
an office must. We really pass it around there.
Travel must, I bet,
Yes.
just to even get yourself like having movements after and digesting, getting back into the parasympathetic. It's an everyday, I mean, just in general, needing to be in parasympathetic is literally in our overstimulated society, such a needed thing. Well, what I want to know about now, we'll finish too, because we went through oily, but I think it's good for like mature skin. What would be kind of those like top threes?
The essential hydrating, absolutely, for dry, dehydrated, mature skin. It's firming and toning and plumping on the skin. The hyaluronic C serum, and then the advanced protection cream, which is our super rich.
So basically, I'm on a mature
regimen. I'm
so
also
dry.
now on it, and I used to definitely consider those my mom's products, but I've slid right into all of those
your
products.
Skin looks amazing. Like right now, your skin looks like what mine looks like after the hyaluronic acid.
It's the hydrating oil.
Is it?
Yeah.
Jesus. Oh, I mean,
when I put it on, often people say like, "Oh, your makeup looks so nice."
Oh yeah, because you do.
I'm like, my what? I don't own any.
People, I don't know if they're familiar with the glow that you get when you're in homeostasis. You've been in the sun in a good way. You're eating well. You're using the right stuff, and it's like such a sheen. And then people have rosy cheeks, bright white teeth, and bright white eyes. And that's what, I mean, we're all trying to essentially replicate when we are putting makeup on. And that's the glow you're giving off right now.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. What would be some last minute, like, your old school, growing up in a commune, hippie style health and wellness tips that we should know about?
I would say I'm so excited to talk about this because usually I talk about business.
Yeah. You're like, I could just talk about the things I grew up with.
Business and the emotional practices of business. So I would say, well, I guess leading with that immediately. This is less old school and this is more my belief, is I think that's something we don't talk about enough in health and wellness is financial wellness.
I think it's so important.
It is such, as you now know, my very grounded Taurian self.
Oh, yeah.
Having calm around finances, having a budget, being free of debt, having an emergency fund, having savings, really understanding financial well-being to me is a critical pillar.
What are some of your biggest resources that have been instrumental in you carving that out for yourself? Like books or blogs or...
So this is, I am an avid connoisseur, or not connoisseur, consumer of all things personal growth.
Oh, me too.
And I go to weird places.
Yeah. Wait, tell us your top craziest five.
I think some listeners may know him. He's very mainstream, but certainly in no way on the wellness track is his name is Dave Ramsey.
Ooh,
and he has a radio show about financial wellness. And I have turned so many people onto it who've experienced profound shifts and changes with their financial well-being.
Have you heard of Ramit Sethi?
I have not.
Is it Sethi? I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm going to turn you on. This is a next level. Because I'm actually a Capricorn moon, so I read about finances constantly.
I just think it's so important. And with all the young entrepreneurs that I coach and work with, the first thing we talk about is, are you paying yourself?
So you do that. You help people with
I do it because I've learned from it. I don't do it in any professional capacity.
I see. It's really just a
passion, and I love helping primarily young women in business. I've always liked to say I think we learned everything the hard and long way.
Yeah, me too.
So if I can save someone from that time and share my lessons, it's so rewarding, and I learned so much from sharing. Yeah. So it's really kind of selfish.
Okay, great. No, I'm the
love
same
helping.
way.
Yeah, and so that is the first conversation we have. I don't care what their business is doing. You have to pay yourself, even if it's $50 a week.
Great.
You have to have that energetic exchange. So I really do think financial well-being, in terms of some of my well-being practices,
Wait, back to the,
Oh, yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm the worst.
I
go everywhere. But what would be your other few, aside from Dave Ramsey, any like little hot tips for people to check out in the financial realm?
So Dave Ramsey is like your definitely not in any way woo-woo, as someone might call it, financial practices. It's like a great financial foundation. I've also suggested Debtors Anonymous to a lot of people.
I think it's phenomenal for people.
I have seen it transform lives. I think it's a great
honestly,
resource.
Very important principles that have to do with things like David Bach is teaching, or,
Absolutely.
all these people. It's very basic.
Really, from what I understand of it, it's rooted in creating a life of your dreams with financial well-being. I would say those are the two primary resources. I actually got a lot of value out of a book called Overcoming Under-Earning.
Oh, yeah. Is it The Daughter of Northrop?
No, but it's another one. Overcoming Under-Earning.
Okay.
It's really like a conversation about value.
Great.
And I think it's really important for women.
So important.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Love those resources.
Yeah. So financial well-being, that's a practice that I have experienced like the peace and calm with in my life. So I'd love to share that. My movement practice is ecstatic dance.
Tell me about that.
I got completely addicted to 5 rhythms.
Okay.
Do you know Kate Shella?
This is a whole world I'm untapped.
This is, she now teaches in West LA, but I love to dance, and it's essentially just like wild, free, embodied movement. So I go to classes a couple times a week, and like my movement practice is dancing.
Incredible.
I have experienced so much mental clarity, physical clarity, everything. So dancing, and then I think that, I learned so much from my mom about
I was literally,
wellness.
as you were speaking, I was like, my next question has to be like the biggest takeaways you've learned from your mom. Or the way you were raised, even.
I think that there's such naturally embedded gifts. One of the things I've learned more and more is I listen to my own rhythm. I'm not a morning person, and you
kapha, the whole thing?
Totally.
Okay.
And I'm really slow with myself in the mornings.
Great.
And I've created so much more space for myself. And I know that I crank up I'm like just ready to go. Let's keep going for another 3 hours. I'm like warmed up in the afternoon. So I've created a lot of space. And then just, it's a constant list of practices. And it goes from things like using unscented laundry detergent. If you can't buy a clean laundry detergent, use baking soda or use an unscented product throughout your house. I make my own cleaning products.
What's your favorite recipe that you use in
my most basic, easy one is vinegar, water, and a little bit of lavender essential oil.
But you can use it in everything. You can use it to cook, clean everything in your house.
I use baking soda in the bathroom. Vinegar and baking soda, I just will never get over the joy of watching it fizz. It makes me so happy.
Totally. Instant payoff.
Yeah, it's so fun. I make my own cleaning products. I cook and prepare most all of my food. I go to the farmer's market. I cook on cast iron. I am very particular about where my dishes come from. It's just I don't drink products out of plastic.
You're just so mindful in health and in your lifestyle.
And I think one of the things I really appreciate about my mom's approach to wellness is that it's just a constant daily practice. When I tidy or when I actually went through and KonMari'd my whole house. And that
what was
another
that like?
It was amazing.
What's the biggest thing you learned from that?
Well, I think it's an interesting practice. I have been in the process of becoming a minimalist for about 5 years. I had a huge life transition and did a 500-mile walk across Spain, which is a whole other story.
Wow.
But I just realized I didn't need anything. I had essentially a day pack.
Yeah.
And
the
after
hyaluronic acid in your pocket. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly.
The
products were definitely the heaviest part of the bag. Let's be clear. There was a lot of need to bring
your skin was off the hook on this walk.
Glowing. And I just slowly started releasing my need to have stuff. So it's been about, I got rid of about 80% of my possessions after that.
Wow.
And then I just a couple months ago went through and got rid of things again. And the biggest takeaway for me is it was really painful to get rid of things. Like I hated seeing this sweater I thought I might like, just that I'd both spent money on. It had sat there unused. It was a waste of resources for everyone. Like, I mean, it went to another home.
Yeah.
But the way I consume now is I think twice.
Tell
I think
me
three
about
times.
and this really plays into finance in a lot of ways for people because we're such over consumers on Instagram. We're overfed constantly. I mean, in a world where it's so hard to get quiet and get tapped into our internal essential needs, what is your thought process before purchasing something now, having gone through that elimination phase and process?
I really think about, do I have anything similar? Do I need this? And then I think about in what way it will serve me in my life. I definitely am not a consumer.
And before the podcast, we were touching on because, you spent so much time in Orcas Island, on Orcas Island growing up. And I've, been spending time on Vashon. That's where Max's mom has property and thinking about maybe doing a retreat house up there. You are so in flux right now. It sounds like, LA, Orcas, kind of just free. Tell us just about that. Like, however you want to elaborate on that and the importance of that. You're so flexible and free seeming right now.
I like to just leave space for the magic. I have really clear goals. I love to create like very specific goals around business growth and life. And I think this is also something I learned from my mom. She really taught us to ask for this or better, or ask for things like if it's in alignment. And that freedom, I think I'm really embodying. I'm going through that same decision of, am I going to have kids? And I'm not in a partnership, and I'm at the age where...
Can we talk? Is that too personal to talk about? I've been having this conversation so much. I mean, people have been following my journey. We've been trying for 3 years, and I just had an experience which was the most liberating thing of my life, where a few friends came up to the retreat house up by Yosemite, and they had all of their kids under 5. All of them were under 5. And I had this moment because I had helped raise my siblings. So I really know what goes into, I'm really realistic about being a parent, even though I'm not one. I've helped, tremendously in that. But it was the first time I got perspective of like how much self-care I have right now, how much time I have, how free I am. And it was the first time I went, whoa, maybe this hasn't happened because maybe I don't actually really want this, even though I've done tons of work on that. So this is a really, it's an interest, a topic that I know can be controversial to people listening because I really respect parents and I think they're doing the most important job on the planet. And I see you guys, man, you are working so hard. You are showing up so much when you are, but just where are you at it? I love having this conversation with people right now.
Well, it is totally personal, and I would love to be totally open about it.
Okay.
Because my path towards becoming a parent is something different, and I think not as widely discussed. I'm not in a relationship. I am nearing the end of my childbearing years, and I so relate to your realism around having kids. I was the oldest in a single parent family and really contributed and definitely helped raise my siblings.
Yeah.
And I have really sat with this decision, and I hope I don't offend anyone, but truthfully, I wish I see what I'm getting into and see the freedom and the time for myself and the more money and so much more freedom of not having kids. And in spite of all that, I do want to have kids.
You do? Okay.
I do. And
wonderful.
So I actually just went through fertility treatments.
Let's talk about that because this is such an important conversation.
And if anyone that's listening is going through them, it is the worst.
I mean, I've only
and
done...
I don't think it's being talked about enough. It is so invasive.
And it's so normal
so
now.
Disruptive.
Yeah.
I had never in my life, I hadn't had surgery. I haven't even had stitches.
I mean, you're cleaning with baking soda.
Yeah. And let's just say I lost my shit on fertility drugs.
Yeah. It's This is why I've been afraid to
I thought I could freeze my eggs, make embryos, put this whole journey on hold. And my body had such an extreme reaction.
Yeah. What has been your
I got
experience?
Completely overstimulated, had like a legendary amount of eggs for any age, much less my age. And I ultimately, to be incredibly personable, didn't get as many embryos that were healthy as I anticipated or that they even expected I would.
Yeah.
And my choice is to do IVF again.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can put my body through that.
Oh man, I hear you.
I just don't. And so right now, it's really only been about 4 months, and it's so exciting to hear you think that I'm glowing.
Oh,
because
you are
let me tell you, I was just glowing darkness.
Yeah.
And I'm finally starting to feel like myself, like feeling present in my body again and moving. And it was definitely the most disruptive physical experience I have ever encountered. And I tried to do everything right. I didn't even do anesthesia for the process because I didn't want that toxicity in my body.
Yes.
I mean, but it didn't matter. They're extreme and powerful drugs. They're disrupting our entire hormone system. And I experienced symptoms. Headaches and just so many emotional ups and downs. And in the process, a couple of different women came to me and were like, you know what, this is normal. Mm-hmm. And you may be feeling so dark right now, and really helped me feel less alone.
That was going to be my question, if you had support.
I did. Yeah. But at some point I was just in it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what that journey looks like for me. And I know that I want to be a parent, and I don't know what that's going to look like. And I'm giving myself some time to just recover physically. And on a deeper emotional level, I think if I'm being really honest, I don't have the space in my life for having a child. Mm-hmm. And, I am working at full capacity growing this business right now. And one of the things I've really explored is this idea that as our role as women are really shifting and our responsibilities are increasing, and this is a new generation, and not even generation, it is all evolving and shifting so quickly. And that idea of having it all, I don't know that I don't know that I can have it all at once.
Mm-hmm. I hear you so much. I mean, I even had to, one of my reasons for getting a team, which I know you have as well, was to be able to create that space. And even then, I'm never disconnected from the company. On an energetic level, I'm still literally raising a company.
Yeah.
It is the space of a child.
It is. And even being single, it's occupying. I shudder to say it, but it is a huge relationship for me.
Absolutely.
And I watch myself grow and be challenged, and especially having a larger team now, in similar ways in which I am in relationship.
Absolutely.
It's
all your stuff comes
space.
up.
It is always with you.
And do you feel the presence of a spirit around you, a baby spirit?
I do.
You do? Me too. I'm
do.
Dude, make a choice, man. Okay, because at this point, I've relinquished any pursuit. And so to touch on everything you've gone through, it's been what I'm so afraid of, because I did one round of an IUI and I just should have listened to my intuition, because I didn't need that trigger shot and the stuff that, they really fed to me. I didn't need to do that on a first round of IUI, but it gave me a peek into the window of what the rest of that process will look like. And I think every body is different and handles things differently.
Some women that react completely differently.
Yes.
And react with total ease.
Yes.
It is. I think that's, and I now keep saying to my friends, gosh, I had a little bit of just peeking over into the cliff of menopause.
Yes.
And in the same way that women, our hormonal makeup is so different.
Yes.
And reacts and responds so differently. So I hear you.
Absolutely.
Everybody is different.
Everybody. That's the best conclusion of that process.
One of the, I think, gifts of having this journey not come easily. You know, I had a friend who was like, I can't decide. Maybe I'll just try. And she got pregnant the first month.
Yeah.
And she was like, and she couldn't decide. And when there's this much intentionality in the decision, I like to think it allows us the opportunity to explore so much of this.
And ourselves. And, you know, my friend said it best, even though I really am like leaning on the side of now being like, maybe I'll just, there will be no more pursuit of pregnancy on my end anymore. And I'm like, if this spirit baby wants to come through, rock on. But I'm actually really open to a life if that isn't the case. That's where I stand now after 3 years of utter pursuit. But my friend said, she was like, Lacey, it's so incredible that when you do have a child, because you probably get this, people around you or, you know, they're like holding the vision, and she's like, it's going to be like the most wanted child and like most conscious experience. Yeah. Whereas and not to say people who, like my mom literally fell pregnant at 18, you know what I mean? You know, and has literally fell pregnant as a raging alcoholic at 42. So, you know, it's like, it's a whole different experience of like that exploration and consciousness. And I really liked that perspective for other women who might be going through this, or men who are going through this, or whatever you're identifying with going through this. You know, it is something that isn't being spoken about enough. And
I couldn't agree more. And the women who are speaking about it, it's like these little clusters of support. I would talk to this woman and just
or this Facebook group. Or this, like, you know, it's very...
The Facebook groups, I definitely dug into that world. But it helped.
It did. And people are so supportive.
Yeah. It's really an incredible supportive group of women.
Yeah. Oh, man. Good. Oh. I just totally understand everything you're going through.
Well, my response after going through all that, and I love that you can see that I seem so free. I just said, oh, yes, I will go to Burning Man. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, I will go to work.
I will go do this because I have decided I am going to fully embody this time.
Love it.
Of not having children.
And that's where that weekend needed to happen, because now like you're saying, it's allowed me the gift of utter presence. And it got me, you know, to a place of thinking, it's like, I can literally just pick up in October and follow the ping and head to Scotland. And if I find a house that might be good for this company's next retreat house, I can get it and I can stay there and I can work on it. And I don't have to think about things like getting back to school in the fall, or things like vaccinations that are such a hot topic, or all the stuff that many people are so faced with. And I sit and I look at my friends and I bow to how much they are going through with literally the most important job in the world, I think.
The most important.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, I think that there's definitely not like as many, my role model is my mom. Yeah. And my mom's most important job in her life is being a parent. Mm-hmm. And that I have seen that. And I also have a friend, mentor, who's married and in her 60s, and they didn't have kids. Mm-hmm. And it's the first time I had an example of this really rich life.
What does that look like? I don't actually have one of those examples.
Well, they're everyone's example. So
okay.
Happy to introduce you.
Oh, great.
Probably already know her because she does all of LA. But they have an amazing life. Mm-hmm. They've been together for 30 plus years. They have an amazing marriage. They travel. They have really incredible, deep friendships. They both had really professionally successful careers. They have multiple houses. Yeah. I mean, it is literally millions of dollars to have kids. I mean, not millions, but it even as women, it impacts our ability to work with the same,
absolutely,
at the same pace,
even hold the same mental capacity. You literally, neurologically, your brain shifts entirely throughout the pregnancy, especially in the third trimester, to solely focus on this one thing. And I've talked to multiple of my friends that are mothers that are entrepreneurs, and they're like, Lacey, there is no way your company, if 3 years ago you got pregnant, would be where it's at today. Absolutely no way. I don't care if you had nanny galores, whatever. It takes up your full mental capacity in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because you're bringing this being, and it is the most important job. Period.
Yeah.
And it becomes that.
Yeah.
That is, I think, on some kind of deeper spiritual level, that's the work I have to do now.
Yeah.
Because Osea right now is my most important job.
It is, yeah. And I have to say that this work for me is as well.
Yeah.
So Guess there's no space at this moment.
I'm just so happy we went there.
Oh, me too. It's so important. And, just anybody else. And again, like, I can't say enough how much I admire the parents that are also listening to this, because you guys, your job's more important than to be a medic in Osea in a lot of ways for what it's going to contribute to the world. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
I love it. Well, I'm so grateful you came today. We have to definitely have a part 2. I just feel like we can go real deep into some real hippie stuff that people can benefit from.
I agree. I think I've kind of become like a hippie in disguise.
Oh, yeah.
But it's all there.
I think you've always been a hippie in disguise at this point, right? Like, you're an OG or an OH.
I'm the descendant of the OG.
It is true.
I'm the OG line.
You are.
I think next you meet my mom.
Oh, I would love to meet her. She sounds just incredible. She also sounds like she's channeling these formulas. I mean,
she really is.
Obviously, she's putting in the time to research and educate herself, but they're so complex and amazing. And I just respect anything that hydrating.
Her approach as the business has scaled is sometimes hard to explain.
Yeah.
But I just let her do that because she is. And every time someone says that they just feel the difference when they put the products on the skin, and they smell the products and they feel the products, it really embodies everything that my mom has instilled in us and taught us. And with Osea, really in tandem with the way that she hopes us that we can live our lives, is that our goal is to raise consciousness.
Amazing.
In every interaction, whether it's letting someone pass you on the freeway or complimenting someone at the checkout counter at the grocery store, or it's the scent of a product that gives you that momentary uplifting or the unscented feeling of the mist that you like. Yeah,
the pheromone, natural.
That's our job, because at the end of the day, you're either raising consciousness or you're lowering
Absolutely.
it. So there's not much choice there.
You can also do it with like kick-ass hydrated skin.
Yeah.
From the hyaluronic. What's the bestseller? Is it the hyaluronic serum?
Okay. I'll just end with this story. It was actually our bestseller of 2019 is a product called the Undaria algae oil.
That's the one that's unscented.
Oil. It does have a little bit of essential oil.
Okay.
But it is a seaweed infused body oil.
Okay.
And the reason this product blew up is kind of a funny story. Victoria Beckham.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Fascinating.
She found the product and became totally obsessed with it. She posted it on her Instagram.
Oh, done.
And then she saw it happened. Our house burned down in the fires last year in Malibu.
God. We didn't even talk about that.
We didn't, which is that can be chapter 3. I'd love to.
Can't
it's
imagine.
An evolving journey.
I'm just waiting for this or my Yosemite house to burn. I mean, that one gets a fire every year. So literally when I was in escrow, it was a mile away from the house. And I've grown up with that. So to me, I haven't experienced everything burning down. I can't imagine, but
you've been
I have
around
it.
that.
Like I'm like at some point they're going to.
Yeah, that's really how we always prepared and lived in that sense. And Victoria Beckham saw that the house burned down and decided to give the products an extra shout out and promoted them quite extensively. And that product went from like a very slow and quiet seller to our number 1 by about 4x. It happens to be
the chills.
It was really one of the kindest things at like truly I like makes me emotional at one of our lowest moments. It was just like such a kindness. And I don't know. We've messaged some, and I'm not sure she understands like the impact on our family.
Yeah.
We definitely had a financial hit from the fires.
Oh, I can't
that
even
was
imagine.
very difficult.
Yeah.
And it has come back to us in like many folds. And it's been miraculous.
Go Victoria Beckham, the angel.
Such a kind woman. She sent us the nicest message. Said, "I'm so sorry to hear about your home, and I want to help." And she's been posting.
Wow. Yeah. That makes me literally want to cry.
I am the biggest fan.
Wow. What a woman.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And I've since heard the most incredible things about her as a businesswoman.
Oh, totally. I have friends who know her and say she's miraculous. Yeah.
She is a true miracle to our family.
Yeah.
So That is our number one bestseller.
Wow.
Victoria Beckham.
Well, before Victoria Beckham, like now, Kim Kardashian, that off the shelves. What was it before that?
The hyaluronic sea serum.
Of course it is. That shit's magic.
And just in the way that the universe loves to roll, the way that my mom makes the Undaria algae oil is it's barrel soaked for 3 months.
It's aged.
It is. It's aged algae. The algae is infused in the oil and it breaks down the cell walls of the algae and infuses with the minerals. And my favorite joke, my mom and I have our jokes we like to make about each other. And I always like to say, oh, that's really scalable, Mom.
That's what? That's real
that's
scalable?
the most scalable product. Really
yeah.
normal. That's how businesses grow.
Yeah, totally.
So,
that's wow. And especially when Victoria Beckham talks about you, like, you better get a lot of barrels.
So there's a lot of barrel soaking. And to everyone who it was sold out for so long, now you know why.
Wow. What a special product.
Yeah, it really is.
God. You guys are so cool. I love what you're doing in the world. I believe in this. There's like a few brands that we're having on the show, and they're all really, really cool. And I say cool in the sense that they hit everything. They hit style, they hit quality, they hit like the really special, unique little touches. We also have one that's coming out with Koyuchi, and very similar to you guys. I mean, the integrity.
Such an incredible brand.
It's unreal.
And Christy Dawn. I mean, when I saw your list of guests, I was so honored to be a part of this.
Oh my God. Everybody's so cool. Yeah. Christy, who she's been an expander of mine for ages. And we happened to have her, as well as Otis, because he happened, he was like, I want to come too. And we're like, yes, we want a couple. My fiance and I are the only couple, and just really, really, really cool people doing cool things.
They're an amazing couple.
They are.
Team-wise too.
Oh yeah, totally. With their company. I'm so proud of them. So thank you for showing up in the world and coming and sharing your stories.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything you do and for including us and for sharing your message. We're so grateful.
Absolutely. Well, we're wishing you guys the best weekend. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into the episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, we did. And in case you're not totally ready to join the pathway yet, I wanted to share a few of our free offerings that I'll often suggest to people as a little bit of a blueprint to get them started on their manifestation journey. The first place I like to direct people completely for free is the motivation. You can see it linked below or on our homepage as our testimony library. And it's categorized by different subjects, whether you're calling in career, money, love, wellness, and much more. When you're reading about a member's experience of what they manifested, you're actually seeing to believe and showing your subconscious that that very thing is possible for you. The second place I like to direct people is to the free clarity exercise, which is also linked below. In it, you get to try our own unique hypnosis process, learn about the science, and some journaling prompts. And the best part about this, you'll get a tiny taste of what it's like to go into your hypnotic state, bring your subconscious forward, and create new neural pathways while receiving clarity. And the third thing, if you haven't listened to it on this podcast yet, please go back to the episode titled Manifestation 101, where you'll learn the basics of neural manifestation to truly understand this process. So go ahead and check out those free resources, the motivation, the free clarity exercise, and the episode Manifestation 101, all linked below. And in an effort to make sure to have representation in this process series, go ahead and submit any process testimonials you have, especially to our LGBTQ+ community, our BIPOC, as well as the Ys, which is anyone in the community who is 45 and over. All right, we'll be back next week.